is what exactly is the branches out of it. So if I put the competency, for example, in our organization, we are having a competency framework, for example. And when I say competency framework, I always say that we have a competencies established for each and every job role. And when I talk about the job role, now if I ask you a question, we have a job role as a mechanical engineer, we have a job role as a technician, we have a job role as a policy and compensation, we had a job role as a recruitment manager. Now question is, does all the job role require the same set of competencies? Answer is no. According to the job role, the competencies are different. Now, if we say that we have a competency framework exist in the organization, now where it is going to help us? Last thing, if we are having a competencies, my dear friend, always remember that whenever the recruitment process is going to be happen, if you are going to recruit people, if you are going to do a recruitment, what exactly you require? You require competencies. So for example, if you are hiring a purchaser, if you are hiring for example, some senior analyst role for some procurement. Now the question is, what job competencies have been required for this person to get hired? You have to refer to this competency framework. Now my point of view is, if there is no competency for that, whenever you are hiring people, what exactly is the phenomena is going to be happen? And that is the thing which I've witnessed number of time I've witnessed that when there is an absence of this formal structure of competencies, then people in the selection panel, they go with their own perception of that role, own perception, their own experiences, their own, the set of experiences which they got. So for example, if I have to hire somebody and if I do not have that backup of this formal competency model at my back, what I'm going to do while I'm hiring a person, I'm going to look from my perspective what is required for that role. Now question is, when my perspective I hire someone and someone else came and to hire some other person, are we going to be consistent? Answer is no, absolutely not. Because one person frame of reference would be different from the other frame of reference, and that is the biggest challenge, my dear friends. It happened that our recruitment drive in the absence of competency framework happened to be the biggest flaw, because the question when you talk about the organization become a performing organization if you are having the right people on the right job. So if you don't have the right people, what happened? I am going to refer you, if you have not read that book, go for it. It's an amazing book. It is called Good to Great by Jim Collins. Good to Great by Jim Collins. What he said into that? He has given an amazing philosophy. He said organizations is like a bus. So what you have to do, you have to first put the right people in the bus. You have to ensure that there are right people in the bus. What is the second thing you have to do? You have to put the right people at the right seats in the bus according to their competencies, and then your journey towards the greatness happen. But what about if you are having wrong people inside the bus? Wrong people mean they are not competent according to their job roles and they are occupying different places. And if you have few of the competent people but they are not occupying the right position, what is going to be happen? It is going to be happen a big dilemma in the organization as a symbolic of that bus, that every time we are just been firefighting, we are putting people around and our journey towards the greatness has halted somewhere. I hope it sounds sense what I'm trying to highlight. Why this subject is important? Because the competency is the one which must be highlighted. So for example, if I'm going to highlight some of the electrical engineer of maintenance I have to hire, so what is the first thing I need? I have to come from the human resource. What job competencies are being required for this person? At what level it has been required? Then I can start doing my recruitment process, because in this frame of reference, I can actually do an interview of the process. I can do a verification of many of the things. That's why it is very important. The recruitment cannot be done if we don't have a solid competency framework model in the organization. Now, what is the second thing? Second thing which is required when we are having a competency framework model, we always have an succession planning. We can do an effective succession planning. What is the succession plan is all about? Succession planning is that when you go into the hierarchy of your of your growth in the organization, of course, every job role require a different set of competencies. Now, for example, if you are a high achiever, if you are a growth potential, so what I can look into that, I can build upon the pool of those high performing employees, and I can look into that specifically, that I have to promote you as a manager of that department. So being as a manager, what competencies are being required, and while you are in that role as a deputy, I can start it, it started growing within you those set of competencies which are ultimately required to be a manager. So basically, in a succession planning process, you have the pool of these people, you look into those specific competencies which need to be nourished, and then once they are ready with that, then it is an easy and smooth transition for the people to get promoted to the next level. Now, my question is, if we have not done it in a systematic way, and if we started promoting people without having sort of this relationship, then what has happened? Again, remember I told you many number of times, we lost a best engineer and we got the worst manager. We lost the best engineer, we got the worst manager, because in this way, the competencies are not being nourished. All right. Now you see the importance of this subject, but I'm going to talk about why it is so critical and crucial for us to understand that how the competencies worked in a system. Then what is the next thing? What is the next thing over here? So if we are having a competency framework, you remember we have talked about the training part as well. We have talked about that. So in the training, we have discussed that every training starts with certain need identification. So for example, if I've been working inside the organization and you come to me and you said, Kamran, what is your training need? Now my training need, if I just tell you, all right, you are a good boss to me, so please just send me to this course A, B, C, D, E. Is it the right way of allocating people to go for the training courses? Absolutely none. Why? Because whatsoever I'm saying, it may or may not relate with my training need. So what is more important? More important, what is my competencies? And what level of competencies I should be performing at that level? And if there is an assessment has been performed on my competencies and I identified, or my managers has been identified, that I have a gap in that skill competency, I have a gap in this knowledge competency, then I have to pick it up that what exactly is the recipe which can plug that gap. Many number of times we had a challenge that whenever we talk about, all right, you had a library of 1,000 plus e-learning, just go and do that. Is it going to fulfill your competencies? Think about it. Now, if I take a metaphor and if I say you have some of the headache and you go inside the pharmacy, and when you go into the pharmacy and you have found that all across in the pharmacy, there are thousands and thousands of medicines have been there. And the pharmacy owner asks you, because you are inside the pharmacy, my dear friend, just go and pick up anything. just go and pick up anything. It's your library, it's your destiny. So I go on to this, that cover look fancy, I took this one. Is it going to address to my ailment? Answer is no. It might make me more worse onto it. Why? Because I need to be surgical. I need to be identified with the pinpoint accuracy what contribute towards my competency needs. That is a challenge I'm going to tell you, and this is one of the, as I mentioned, that while I've been working on mega projects and especially on the competency development for the whole EdNoc group at that time, a few years back, and especially we have been having a tool and software of Covey, which we have utilized during that time as well. The important challenge which I have seen over here and seen in many of the other companies across the globe, that the main challenge happened with the people, that the training budgets which are being allocated for the purpose, in many number of time, if it is not related with competency models which has been required and on the assessments outcome, it is going to become a biggest wastage of money. Why? Because you are just sending people into a big pharmacy and you didn't know what medicine is required for them. I hope it sounds sense what I'm trying to use a metaphor for that purpose, that why it is important, that why people have to be conscious and why there should be a framework onto that. So there is a requirement. We can only do a training needs assessments if we are having a good competency model in our place. Now, another thing what we can talk about, you might have heard about that the career ladder is going to be our challenge, and we number of times we talk about that. What is the way in which we can establish our career ladder? What are the things actually which has been essentially required in order to have a guideline for the people? This is called a career ladder. So what would be my next step? What would be my next position? You cannot establish a career ladder if you don't have a set of competencies which is being available with you in a set of libraries. Because whenever you create a new position, what is exactly is being important in this new position, you have to identify what exactly is the set of competencies required for this job role. Now, for example, my dear friends, currently we have been going through an integration process. Now we are having people, they have been coming in. You know what is the most important role which has been happening right now? That whenever we are having a set of positions, they are being merged together, or the new positions has been created. How can I create a new positions if I do not have a pool of these competencies, mean if I don't have this competency library? And just to tell you very interesting scenario, that the most important aspect which has been required by the subject matter expertise, there are different levels in which they have to done. The question is, who are the one who are capable, who can build up a competency framework or a competency library?